Okay.
Oh, here we go.
We're back.
Nice job, Johnny! That's why we got IT. Woo.
Yeah, we're back.
We said 10 minutes. Let's go. Try to get back up.
Just an FYI, I'm live. We're back up, so you can come and say we're back. Thank you for your patience.
Moderator Dembeck's going to call the meeting to order in a moment. So if everybody can find their seat.
And Dembeck is muted still.
Testing 1 2 3 4 5 5 4 3 2 1.
Couple members still haven't taken their seat. If you can hear me, take your seat. We're looking for you. I see Jen. Mike Rocchetti. Susan Driscoll doesn't have her video on.
I know. I was in the other room, Dave.
Thank you, Susan.
You said we had 10 minutes. It was only 8.
I know. We're going to wait the whole 10. We're just trying to get everybody seated.
Oh.
It seems there was a problem on YouTube's end, but it seems like they've remedied it. So we're all set to go here in a second. We're going to go about 30 more seconds. Mike Rocchetti, are you in the room?
Oh.
There he is.
I'm back, Dave.
I think we're good if we want to continue that instruction. Rich Muckle had his hand up, but you can, whatever you want to do, Tom.
Okay, according to the IT department here and our town clerk, we can resume the meeting. Does anybody have any additional questions on the subject at hand, which is the $50,000 for the Civic Triangle upgrades?
Mr. Moderator, make a motion to move the question.
Second.
Motion made, move the question and seconded. We'll take it to a vote. Dave, you want to do a roll call vote, please?
Point of information, Mr. Moderator. Wasn't there a friendly amendment to leave $1 in there? Is that what we're voting on? The amended motion?
I'll withdraw the friendly amendment.
Okay, so now, the question will be, do we approve elimination of all $50,000 in that item? Okay.
My motion, Susan, is to move the question.
Yes. That's all we have on the table is to move the question right now.
I was trying to find out what motion the moderator was just asking us to vote on.
Once we take the vote on moving the question, if we move the question, it'll be the $50,000 reduction motion.
Fine.
Motion to move. Mr. Attanasio.
Voting in favor of the question.
No, this is to move the question.
Yes.
April.
Okay. Mr. Bono.
Yes, move the question.
Ms. Bershali.
Yes.
Ms. Cairns.
Yes.
Mr. Condon.
Yeah.
Mr. Dembeck.
Yes.
Ms. Driscoll.
Yes.
Mr. Elsey.
Yes.
Mr. Fioravanti.
Yes.
Ms. Furry Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Gauthier.
Yes.
Mr. Goldstein.
Yes.
Ms. Cole.
Yes.
Mr. Lurch.
Yes.
Ms. Mativier.
Yes.
Mr. Morgan.
Yes.
Mr. Muckle.
Yes.
Mr. O'Leary.
Yes.
Mr. Olinsu.
Yes.
Ms. Ritchie.
Yes.
Mr. Rocchetti.
Yes.
Ms. Stewart-Gelinas.
Yes.
Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mr. Welch Collins.
Yes.
We've got 2/3.
We got 2/3. We're going to take the original motion to a vote, which is remove the $50,000 from the transfer to the capital, now recurring for the Civic Triangle upgrades. We roll call vote.
Point of information. What was it?
A yes is to cut.
What happened to the friendly amendment which was accepted?
I withdraw the friendly amendment.
That was withdrawn a couple of minutes ago, Nick.
Mr. Attanasio,
Yes.
Mr. Bono,
I'm sorry, Dave. There was some audio. I'm not sure what the.
Okay.
I'm not voting for the cut. I wasn't sure.
okay, a
what
yes is to cut, a no is to not cut.
No.
Ms. Brashali,
No.
Ms. Cairns,
No.
Mr. Condon,
No.
Mr. Dembeck,
No.
Ms. Driscoll,
No.
Mr. Elsey,
No.
Mr. Fioravanti,
No.
Ms. Furry Wagner,
No.
Mr. Gauthier,
No.
Mr. Goldstein,
No.
Ms. Cole,
No.
Mr. Lurch,
No.
Ms. Mativier,
No.
Mr. Morgan,
No.
Mr. Muckle,
No.
Mr. O'Leary,
No.
Mr. Olinsu,
No.
Ms. Ritchie,
No.
Mr. Rocchetti,
No.
Ms. Stewart Jelinas,
No.
Mr. Swanson,
No.
Mr. Welch Collins.
No.
Motion fails.
If there's any other questions or motions on the transfer of capital non-recurring, that will take the entire budget to a vote. The entire budget for transfer to capital non-recurring for 2020, 2021, $1,401,280. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstention? The ayes have it, thank you. The next thing on the agenda is final action on the entire budget. We've got broken down in a number of categories. The general government, I think I'll have to ask Kim, our finance director, because we moved some money from the library a little while ago for a total figure for the general government budget. If you would, Kim, please.
The general government is 34,359,165.
That's for $34,359,155. So here a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Who moved it?
I did.
Sally and Goldstein I got?
Sure.
Any discussion on this motion for the total operating account for general government, $34,359,155?
Rich Muckle has his hand up.
Sorry.
65.
165,
Oh,
excuse me. Richard, got,
I don't have any questions. I'm good.
Kim, we're good at 34,359,165, right?
Yep.
Anybody have any questions? Take it to roll call vote, Dave.
Mr. Attanasio,
Yes.
Mr. Bono,
Yes.
Ms. Brashali.
I lost it.
I can hear you.
Yes. But I can't see anybody.
We can hear you. Miss Cairns?
Hey, I got you. All right.
Miss Cairns?
Yes.
Mr. Condon?
Yeah.
Mr. Dembeck?
Yes.
Ms. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mr. Elsey?
Yes.
Mr. Fioravanti?
Yes.
Ms. Furry Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Gauthier?
Yes.
Mr. Goldstein?
Yes.
Ms. Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Lurch,
Yes.
Ms. Mativier,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Muckle,
Yes.
Mr. O'Leary,
Yes.
Mr. Olinsu,
Yes.
Ms. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Rocchetti,
Yes.
Ms. Stewart Jelinas,
Yes.
Mr. Swanson,
Yes.
Mr. Welt Collins.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next item on the agenda is the final vote on Board of Education budget. This time it stands at $15,372,315. I have a motion.
Here, I have a motion. So moved.
I second.
That was Danielle. Who
I
seconded that?
second that.
Swanson?
Correct.
Bob Swanson seconded, yes.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Did we get a total from Kim for that? Or no?
Kim, are you available, Finance Director?
Yep. You were correct. 50,372,315.
You have the correct total. Any discussion?
For you, Wagner.
Mr. Wagner, you have the floor.
Through you, Mr. Moderator. As a point of Robert's rules, I am not able to make a motion to restore any money to the Board of Ed because I voted against the cuts to begin with. So I'm pleading with any of my colleagues on the RTM to return, even if it's a fraction of the cuts. I think it went too deep, too quickly, and I'd request that you listen to all the responses of the public out there and restore some money.
Ed Linso, you got the floor.
Yes, through you, Mr. Moderator. I was one of the ones who voted yes for the $470,000 cut in the budget several days ago. But I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the $470,000 cut we made to the Board of Education.
Second.
Second.
If I may just follow up, this would be just a motion to reconsider. It's not mentioning any figures in this motion. I will make another motion later on, but this is simply to reconsider that line, that cut we made to the Board of Education.
Who seconded that?
I did. I voted no for the cut, but I believe I could second.
You can. This is Town Attorney Rob Lavina. Let's just explain again what we have on the floor right now. Robert's rules. This is just the motion to reconsider. It stands alone. It needed a proponent of the prior cut to move it, to make the motion, which happened, and anyone can second it under Roberts. So we have a valid motion on the floor to reconsider. It's by majority vote. You can obviously debate it at this time if you wish, but there's no numbers attached to it right now. There'd be a two-step process. You have to decide whether to vote affirmatively to reconsider. If you do, then the main motion is back on the floor again as to the BOE budget. But you'd have to first get a majority vote on just solely the motion to reconsider. Thank you.
Ted, Greg Atanasio's next.
Greg, you got the floor.
I would just like to strongly consider my colleagues that previously voted for the cut to reconsider. The schools are a great asset to this town. I think most people when they first move here, one of the things they consider is in fact the school system. I would urge that somebody make a motion to reduce the cut, if not eliminate it entirely.
Any other questions? Dave Elster, you got the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. You know, on behalf of the over 500 signatures on the petition signed, people in protest for this, on behalf of everybody that spent time writing letters concerned about this, behalf of teachers, on behalf of students, on behalf of kids, I would love to work across the aisle to bring this number down to a more reasonable number, one that we can ask the school to run a leaner ship and yet lessen the impacts to teachers, students, and kids. I would ask the folks on the other aisle to look at that and work with us a little bit.
And Violante, you got the floor.
Yes, I haven't said much about the school budget because I am a Board of Ed employee, but I've had people express much concern, and many of these people are actually not Board of Ed employees. In our previous discussion with Mr. Brule, he found it exciting to have this $50,000 spent on something that we in the future could see as something great. And I've always thought that that would be a wonderful thing for people to gather and appreciate the arts in our town. But what concerns me is that a cut in the budget this big, I'm concerned for the arts in the public schools. And on behalf of all of the arts teachers and students in the Waterford Public Schools, I beg you to reconsider this large of a cut. Thank you.
If no other questions, we'll take it to roll call vote.
This is only to reconsider. Mr. Attanasio.
Yes.
Mr. Bono.
As Board of Ed employee, I need to abstain.
Ms. Brashali.
No.
Ms. Cairns.
Abstain, please.
Mr. Condon.
No.
Mr. Dembeck.
No.
Ms. Driscoll.
No.
Mr. Elsey.
Yes.
Mr. Fioravanti.
Yes.
Ms. Furry Wagner.
Yes.
Mr. Gauthier.
Definitely yes.
Mr. Goldstein.
No.
Ms. Cole.
Yes.
Mr. Lurch.
No.
Ms. Mativier.
Abstain.
Mr. Morgan.
No.
Mr. Muckle.
No.
Mr. O'Leary.
No.
Mr. Olinsu.
Yes.
Ms. Ritchie.
Sorry, Dave. No.
Mr. Rocchetti.
No.
Ms. Stewart Jelinas.
No.
Mr. Swanson.
No.
Mr. Welch Collins.
Yes.
Mr. Lurch, can I get your vote again, please?
No.
Motion fails 13-8. With 3 abstentions.
Motion fails 13-8, 3 abstentions. We're back on the original motion. Any discussion?
Mayor Welch Collins has his hand up.
Mr. Collins, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Moderator. I feel that due to these exceptional and trying times, a reduction in the Board of Ed budget was entirely reasonable. However, given the uncertainty of what the future is going to require of our education system, I feel that a reduction this extreme seems ill-advised. I believe that those who propose this reduction owe the public, students, and teachers an explanation of where they intend this money to come from and how they arrived at that number. Since no one was able or willing to provide those numbers on the public record, I will be voting against this budget as it is presented. Thank you.
Anyone else request on the floor?
No, no hands up.
If no one's requesting the floor, we'll take this to a roll call vote.
Mr. Attanasio,
No.
Mr. Bono,
Abstain?
Ms. Brashali.
Yes.
I didn't hear you, Ms. Brashali.
Yes.
Ms. Cairns,
Abstain.
Mr. Condon,
Yeah.
Mr. Denbeck,
Yes.
Ms. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Elsey.
Dave, I gotta ask you what I'm voting on because I couldn't hear you. You came in and out.
Yeah. You're voting for the budget itself. Final action. It's for $50,372,315.
Yep. No.
Mr. Fioravanti,
No.
Ms. Furry Wagner,
No.
Mr. Gauthier,
No.
Mr. Goldstein,
Yes.
Ms. Cole,
No.
Mr. Lurch,
Yes.
Ms. Mativier,
Abstain.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Muckle, Mr. Muckle,
Yes.
Mr. O'Leary,
Yes.
Mr. Olinsu,
No.
Ms. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Rocchetti,
Yes.
Ms. Stewart-Gelinas,
Yes.
Mr. Swanson,
Yes.
Mr. Welch Collins,
No.
$13 to 8, Tom, with 3 abstentions.
Ladies and gentlemen, motion passes 13-8 with 3 abstentions. We'll go on to current year capital improvements. Current year capital improvements, I believe, is $2,216,680. Am I correct, Tim?
Yes, correct.
So current year capital, I'm looking for a motion. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Baird,
Second. Muckle.
Rob Muckle, thank you.
Thank you, Baird. Thank you, Mr. Muckle. Any discussion on the total amount for $2,216,680 for current year capital?
Nobody.
Nobody's got any questions? We'll take it to vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? The motion passes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next thing on the agenda is transfer to capital non-reoccurring is $1,401,280. Am I correct, Kim?
Yes, correct.
Did we
That's
skip
the-
debt service?
No, that service is next. Transfer to capital non-reoccurring $1,401,280. Any discussion? Do you have the motion made second, Dave?
I didn't get the motion or the second.
So moved.
Muckle,
Second.
Muckle, Baird, thank you.
Any discussion on the motion for $1,401,280? Transfer to capital non-reoccurring? Not all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? The ayes have it. Next thing on the agenda is debt services. What I have is $7,628,790. Am I correct, Tim?
Correct.
That's the correct figure. Do I have a person to make the motion?
So moved.
Second.
Welch Collins and Danielle Stewart-Gelinas, I believe.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Any questions? We'll take a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? The ayes have it.
Mike Rochetti's got his hand up.
That's Mr.
I did it
Kenny.
by mistake, sorry.
Okay, Kim, we'll need a final total for the fiscal year budget 2020-21.
95,978,230.
It's $95,978,230, correct?
Correct.
We'll hear a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I believe Danielle Delinas and Mr. Markle, am I correct?
Yep.
Any discussion on the motion? No discussion? We'll take it to a voice vote. $95,978,230. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
Opposed? Nay.
Roll call vote, please.
Opposed.
Okay, we'll take it to let's take a timeout. We'll take it to town clerk. We're gonna take it to a roll call vote. $95,978,238. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Attanasio,
No.
Mr. Bono,
Yes.
Ms. Brashali,
Yes.
Ms. Cairns,
Yes.
Mr. Condon,
Yes.
Mr. Dembeck,
Yes.
Ms. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mr. Elsey.
Dave, I'm gonna ask you again, what am I doing here? There's so much going on.
This is for the total number of the budget, Steve. $95,978,230.
No.
Mr. Fioravanti,
No.
Ms. Murray Wagner,
No.
Mr. Gauthier,
No.
Mr. Goldstein,
Yes.
Ms. Cole,
No.
Mr. Lurch,
Yes.
Ms. Mativier,
Yes.
Mr. Morgan,
Yes.
Mr. Muckle,
Yes.
Mr. O'Leary,
Yes.
Mr. Olinsu,
No.
Ms. Ritchie,
Yes.
Mr. Rocchetti,
Yes.
Ms. Stewart Delinas,
Yes.
Mr. Swanson,
Yes.
Mr. Welch Collins.
No.
Sixteen to 8. Motion passes.
Motion in favor is 16-8. The motion passes. Before everybody starts to pick up, I need your attention. We have to act on a letter or request from the tax collector. So just bear with me for a minute. The subject is tax payment schedule for fiscal year 2020-2021. I have the following recommendations for the schedule of tax payments for fiscal year 2020/2021. Retain the two payment system for real estate tax bills, providing for collections in July and January. Real estate tax bills over $100 will be collectible in two equal installments until July 1st, 2020 and January 1st, 2021. Real estate tax bills of $100 or less will be due in full on July 1st, 2020. Personal property and motor vehicle tax bills will be due in full July 1st, 2020. Motor vehicle supplemental tax bills will be due in full January 1st, 2021. These bills are for vehicles registered after the assessment date of October 1st, 2019, but before August 1st, 2020. All collections shall conform to the governor's executed orders and resolution passed by the RTM on April 20th, 2020. So hear a motion.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Driscoll and Welch Collins.
I'll take it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. A motion to adjourn is ordered. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Who seconded?
Buckle.
I got Danielle.
Motion made and seconded. We're adjourned. All in favor, say aye.
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 And we opposed, abstained, the ayes have it. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen.